Yes, it's only because of the Supreme Court order that we are beginning to ask where does that leave us? Because before now, the CBN have already made us known that this ceases to be a legal tender as of 10th of February. So that was not surprising. But where we are having issues is in the area whereby the Supreme Court gave judgment and said that they have to maintain the status quo. And now maintain the status quo. I'm not a lawyer. Could be you've started with a new currency, so you have to continue with it, or it could be both the old and the new working to use being used together. But again, you must understand that it was not a clear-cut judgment that says stop, make sure that the new notes are not in circulation any longer. So definitely, I think today we may have a direction, but when I heard that judgment, I asked a question: was the decision of the CBN in terms of redesigning the naira note taken by the federal government? We must know that there are two sides of this coin. We have the physical side and we have the monetary side. And when it comes to monitoring, the federal government has not been intervening because of the CBN Act. Was CBN part of that judgment? Was CBN part of it? CBN is more or less like an autonomous body. I mean, it has independence. That is why we keep on complaining about the CBN governor to going to Mr. President to seek permission to tell us Mr. President say this or that. The whole idea where we have the CBN Act is to make the CBN independent to take decisions as long as it concerns monetary policies. So, and definitely, were they joined in that suit? From what I've read, they've not been joined in that suit. So, definitely,
But is it but
we
is
are
it
where we are
possible?
today because of the decisions that we have taken as regard the redesign of the currency. Remember, it's not just the redesign of the currency that is the problem. Nigerians are returning the old currency and said, look, give us the new currency in exchange for the old currency. But we are not getting the new currency. That is the challenge. The challenge is not about the legal tender. The challenge is about getting the new currency. And if you are saying that we should return back to the status quo, does the bank still have the old currency? Remember, up to that time, we've been submitting those old currency to the bank, and the bank said
200
they are taking it to
naira.
CBN. Do they still have those old currency? Those are part of the questions that I'm still begging for answers.
But I mean, lawyers are debating over this, and it has been argued by some of them, and there's a sharp division, even among lawyers, as to can you really separate the Central Bank of Nigeria from the government for the federal government of Nigeria?
You can. When you look at the monetary policy, that's why you say you have a monetary policy. You have sometimes talk about the physical policy, which have to do with infrastructure. We have to do with job creation. We have to do with other. But when we talk about the monetary policy, it has to do with the CBN. The CBN are the one that are in charge of monetary policy. That is why they are the one that fixed rates on inflation. They are the ones that say this is the exchange rate, this is the inflation rate. So it's different. The federal government can only bring policy that will enhance the monetary policy. So definitely independent. But when you look at the currency swap, you could also argue that within the area of its currency swap, it's not independence of the CBN to make that decision alone. That acts say the CBN must contact the presidency, and then through the presidency, they may come to an agreement whether it's necessary. Remember, we had issues like this when the then CBN governor, Charles Soludo, was trying to redenominate the naira, and the then President late President Marshall Yaradua stopped him and said, look, even if the act makes you independent, when it comes to the area of currency issues, you still need to contact the president.
All right, Mukhtar, there's one issue that I'm sure a lot of Nigerians will want to understand. The CBN says, take your money to the bank, the old notes. A lot of Nigerians did. And then last week it was reported that the CBN says it didn't have the capacity to print enough new notes, and that's why we didn't have. On Saturday, the CBN said no, they didn't say they didn't have the capacity. So if, amidst all of this, as a financial expert, do you have an idea why this Naira note is scarce?
Well, I wish I'm the CBN governor, and even the CBN governor is not telling us why the Naira note is scarce. But if going by what the CBN said initially is anything to go by. We mustn't forget that the CBN said it clearly that time that, look, we have about 2.7 trillion that are not in the banking space. We want those money to come into the banking space. And they said it again that if this money comes into the banking space, we are going to, one of our tools to control inflation is reduction or mopping up of liquidity from the system. It made it clear that we will use those tools. So it's not that we have, I heard people say, no, we've returned 2.something trillion, we're supposed to have it back. No, the CBN had made it clear that, no, you cannot have all this money you return back because of the inflationary environment that we are in. So some people are saying, no, we return about 3 trillion. The CBN is supposed to print back 3 trillion. No, the CBN will not print back 3 trillion into the system. It was definitely going to print back a certain amount into the system, but it will not be 3 trillion. From what we gathered, the CBN is printing 800 billion out of 2.something trillion. And people are saying, look, can you hike it? Can you increase it? And I think the National Council of State also met and said the CBN should increase that. And that was when that rumor came that the CBN said we don't have so much. The Nigerian printing does not have so much papers to print, but they came out to deny that they have enough of these papers. So definitely, I think it's all about the policy to fight inflation. Remember, in the World Economic Summit where they all met, they agreed that all CBN governors made that one of the global challenge they have now is inflation and how to fight inflation. So definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mukhtar Mohammed, financial analyst, for joining us on Daybreak this morning for your insight. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, now moving on.